The president ended his tour in South Korea with a high-stakes meeting with Chinese regime leader Xi Jinping. Leaving that meeting, Trump said China will buy what he called tremendous amounts of American soybean. He said he will reduce fentanyl-linked tariffs on China while Beijing paused its planned rare earth export controls. NTD's Washington correspondent brings us more from that meeting from Gyeongju, South Korea.
It's going to be very strong in enforcing the fentanyl, everything having to do with fentanyl and regulations internally, including taking very strong measures against those that don't obey.
President Trump is rolling back fentanyl-related tariffs on China as he leaves his first face-to-face meeting in 6 years with CCP leader Xi Jinping.
It was 57, now it's 47. Because I believe they are really taking strong action.
Effective immediately, the 20% U.S. tariff on Chinese imports imposed due to Beijing's failure to curb exports of fentanyl ingredients is now reduced to 10%. And on talking China into buying more U.S. agriculture,
large amounts, tremendous amounts of the soybeans and other farm products are going to be purchased immediately, starting immediately.
President Trump saying that Xi authorized China to start buying U.S. soybeans just before their meeting.
Which I appreciate it. That was a very nice gesture.
Meanwhile, President Trump declares the dispute with China over rare earths settled.
But all of the rare earth has been settled, and that's for the world. I guess you could really say this was a worldwide situation, not just a U.S. situation.
China, which has a near monopoly on rare earths, elements that play vital roles in cars, planes, and weapons, ramped up their export restrictions on these critical minerals earlier this month. In response, President Trump signed a flurry of deals with Indo-Pacific countries, including Japan, Malaysia, and Australia, to counter Beijing's market dominance. But after his meeting with Xi,
well, there's no roadblock at all on rare earth. That will hopefully disappear from our vocabulary for a little while.
The president says that this is part of a one-year agreement that will be negotiated every year. And minutes before his meeting with the Chinese regime leader, President Trump announces that he's directed the Department of War to immediately start testing the United States nuclear weapons on a, quote, equal basis with other countries, specifically citing China and Russia.
They seem to all be nuclear testing. We have more nuclear weapons than anybody. We don't do testing. We've halted it many years ago. But with others doing testing, I think it's appropriate that we do also.
President Trump also announces that China will begin to purchase American energy, even teasing what he calls a very large-scale transaction of oil and gas from Alaska. He also says that he has plans to visit China in April, after which Xi Jinping will come to visit the U.S. Reporting from Gyeongju, South Korea, Mariotsu, NTD News.
China's Commerce Ministry confirmed today the regime will suspend its new export control restrictions on rare earth minerals for 1 year. It also said the U.S. will pause its investigation into China's shipbuilding and maritime industries for 1 year. And during an interview on Fox Business this morning, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said the U.S. and China could sign a trade agreement as soon as next week. He also said the U.S. would enact a 1-year suspension of certain entity list restrictions. Those restrictions would make it harder for Chinese firms to use affiliates to buy off-limits technology. Bessent added that China has agreed to purchase millions of metric tons of U.S. soybeans in the coming years. Here's the secretary.
Is the U.S. suspending that new rule that was put in place that would have expanded the entity list? Export restrictions to any entity that is at least 50% owned by one or more entities on the list for 1 year?
Yes, we are going to be suspending that for a year in return for the suspension on the rare earth licensing regime. And Maria, what's important to note here, that it was China versus the world. China threatened to put this licensing regime on the entire world, and President Trump, as the leader of the free world, negotiated this deal for everyone. The Kuala Lumpur agreement was finished in the middle of the night last night, so I expect that we will exchange signatures possibly as soon as next week. And Maria, one of the big parts of this agreement, and I'm going to break the news here on your story, is the massive amount of agriculture purchases that the Chinese are going to be doing in this agreement. So the Chinese have agreed to buy 12 million metric tons of soybeans during this season, right now, between now and the should be January. And then for the next 3 years, they're going to be buying a minimum of 25 million metric tons per annum for the next 3 years.
Besson also said China has approved the transfer agreement for TikTok, adding that he expects it to move forward in the coming weeks and months. He did not offer more details. China's Commerce Ministry said it would properly handle TikTok-related issues with the United States. And we have more details regarding Trump's Asia trip. He said Taiwan never came up in talks with Chinese regime leader Xi Jinping. As for North Korea, Trump said he was unable to meet with its leader Kim Jong-un due to time constraints, but added he is willing to return to the region for a meeting.
We never were able to talk because I was so busy. And really, this is why we came. I think it would have been maybe disrespectful to the importance of this meeting if we did that. So I'd come back. With respect to Kim Jong-un, I'd come back.
2 Republican lawmakers are urging the Trump administration to back Falun Gong practitioners